Hey everyone, welcome back to Dungeon Brew, where we are continuing our series for Monster Tactics. Today we are talking about the Orc. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Dungeon Brew.
Hey everyone, we are talking about orcs today on Dungeon Brew, and we're going to be talking about the various tactics that they employ when they come into battle or come into conflict with the party. We've been doing quite a few videos here on the Tactics series. If you've enjoyed them so far, you want to support the channel, please like and hit the notification bell. Leave a comment down below and let us know what you think about orcs, and we will get into it. Joshua, orcs, let's get started.
God, orcs have been such a core piece of fantasy role-playing in general for so long. I imagine most people envision them. Although, I'll be honest, as a young GM, and this is embarrassing, I oftentimes confuse them with goblins a lot.
I mean, that makes sense, because Tolkien used the two terms interchangeably, and I know that you read a lot of Tolkien when you were younger, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it was a definite hurdle I had to get over. But orcs in of themselves are strong, they're aggressive, and they function both in an individualistic and a tribalistic nature that makes them really unique when you're introducing them to characters. And I think that individualistic piece really separates them from goblins quite a bit.
Yeah, and so when we talked about kobolds and we talked about goblins, we talked about how cunning they are. And orcs, really, when you think of orcs, you generally don't think cunning. It's not that they're not. It's not that they're not intelligent after a certain way. Although there's a lot of the original or the older editions, there was always a penalty to intelligence or whatever for being an orc. I don't think that they're. It's a lack of education probably rather than a lack of intelligence in a lot of regards. But like you said, they're both tribalistic and they're individualistic. So there's that idea of they work together, they raid together, they move together, they live together, and all of those things make them feel connected to one another in a very, meaningful way. But at the same time, as an individual, they gain they derive their power and their self-worth from how they're viewed by the tribe. So the better that they perform on a raid, the better they perform in battle, the better they're seen by their peers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that it's important that when you're introducing these to your characters, that you're able to display that in some way to them. I mean, you're going to see in almost every encounter with orcs that there's some variance in how they present themselves. So you're going to have some warriors, you're going to have some archers, you're going to have some magic users properly in the party that's attacking, and they're all going to not only move as a group, but also individually look at different weaknesses in their enemies, or challenges among their enemies that they're going to be focusing on.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had a thought, and it didn't occur to me until just this minute when we were kind of talking about this, is I think a good representation maybe of the way that the orcs are seen within their own tribe is very similar to Fury Road. The idea of witness me. That's what they want. They want to be able to perform deeds that they are seen, which in the movie they're more specific to the individual, but they want to be seen for the things that they do, and that's how they gain honor and that's how they gain status within the tribe. So somebody who steps forward and does something honorable, heroic, mighty, whatever it is, and they are witnessed by the tribe, that, I think, is a good way of looking at this. I'm sorry if that went a little bit against the grain for what it was you were talking about, but like that's where my brain was trying to put those pieces together, unfortunately.
No, I think that it fits very well into that. It's like they do want to stand out. They're going to move in a group, and they're going to have we see this. Orcs are known for their raiding parties. They're known for their siege tactics. But they're trying to do things within the course of the battle that is going to elevate them in standing among the others that are fighting with them for that renown, for that honor, so to speak. And we kind of talked about this a little bit before. Man, what is that saying out of Riddick that is true for orcs too?
You keep what you kill.
Yeah, you keep what you kill, which is kind of the orc mentality too. You're going to not only see me, but I am also going to try to take something that is going to elevate me among the tribe. So if
Yes.
I'm the young, orc mage, I'm going to target the opposing mage in the enemy party to eliminate them, to, assume or consume his stature to be seen as powerful as the person I just killed.
Yeah, the orc shaman, the orc witch doctor, they're targeting the clerics or the druids or the wizards or whatever it is, the other magic users, much in the same way that the orc warriors are specifically interested in the warriors of the adventuring party. They're the ones that they want to overcome to show that they're mightier. Now, I will say that I think for the most part, a raiding party of orcs, they come across the adventuring party, they view the adventuring party as weak. There's something to be killed, something to be disposed of. They do not care about the status of any individual member of the adventuring party until somebody in the adventuring party has distinguished themselves. So the barbarian in the adventuring party steps forward, rages, kills 2 or 3 orcs in quick succession. Suddenly, that barbarian is a target for all of the warriors in the raiding party, because to kill that barbarian means that they get to gain the status that he has accomplished in that battle, and they're viewed by the rest of the tribe as being mighty. And I think that this is where things become very interesting for a tactical perspective, for the GM and for the players, is that if you are a player and you perform too well in a battle with orcs, you become the target for the rest of the orcs. And
in fact, orcs will leave their combat with other players to pursue you.
Yes, they'll basically be like, if I can kill that barbarian that just killed 3 people, I have effectively killed 3 people in battle, and I killed him. So you get to keep, like you said, you get to keep everything that he has done in that battle. You have overcome him and gotten everything that he's accomplished up to that point, which is the exact same thing that you were talking about when it comes to the orc shamans, the orc witch doctors. The wizard throws a fireball into the middle of the orcs. The shaman kills the wizard. That shaman is considered mightier. He is considered more powerful because he has done that. And I think that this is a very interesting way to approach combat with an orc tribe or an orc raiding party or whatever, is that hyper focus of, that person is powerful. I want what they have, and if I kill them, I get it.
Now, I do want to say that prior to that event, which I loved everything that this conversation is having, it makes me just want to run a full orc campaign. God damn it! But one of the things that I think is also important to establish with your orc raiding party when adventurers are facing them is that, again, orcs don't see the adventurers as anybody, and they're trying to establish themselves as the biggest, baddest badass on the field before the battle even starts.
Right.
They're using old school Greco-Roman berserker type of tactics to demonstrate, look how strong and how powerful and frightening I am. You don't want to face me. You better just run.
Right. And I struggle to remember all of the specific tribes and things like that from Europe that did this, but immediately I think of like Gaul, the idea that it's like you would strip naked and just charge into battle, like that kind of idea.
That's how I do
it. The war cries where they would try and thunder, they might have drums or do whatever because they want to elicit fear. And I think of Lord of the Rings in the Fellowship in the first movie, where the Fellowship is inside of the tomb, and they can hear drums, and the drums are getting louder and louder and louder, and the Fellowship, you can see visible fear on several of their faces, and that's what you want to kind of evoke, is like the orcs are coming toward you, and they're using scare tactics, the drums, they're using yells, they're using insults, they're using threats, they're using whatever they can to intimidate you and get inside of your head.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I love that type of thing. Like come into the battle and have your berserker throw the spear as far as he possibly can to show how strong he is, or to unleash a war cry that's louder than what anybody else has heard, whatever it is. And I don't know how we necessarily play with this all the time as a GM in the game, because I don't know that the stat blocks or the specifics on orcs say roll a will save or roll a, fear check or, stun people for a round because of how intimidating the orc is. But I'm probably a little more iffy on those things. Like, I'm going to include this just to show the variance of how different this monster is than other monsters. And I don't know that the mechanics always capture that.
I don't think that they do, but I think that there's no reason why, especially it could be like a group thing where it's like if there's at least 4 orcs or 6 orcs or something, and they can take a round to try and elicit fear in their enemies, then you add in a DC check or something like that, which could be relatively low. I mean, you could start that as a DC 10 and add 1 for every 2 orcs that are involved in the threatening process, or just have it as a flat like DC 13. Like, have relatively low, rolls for that. But I agree. I think that it would be it's a fascinating idea to add in that idea that they are intimidating and they are effective at it because this is what they do. This is how they attack. This is how they raid villages, is they try to evoke as much fear as possible before they get into battle because it gives them an edge.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that I have a whole lot more to add on orcs, honestly, but the one thing that probably drives me a little bonkers is that I do read online about people talking about ambush tactics and them using terrain and jumping out at their enemy for like a shock value. And I much more see the orcs as individuals that play the battle drums as they're approaching. You know they're coming. They want you to know they're coming. They're not worried about you. They're going to tear through you like anything else that they've encountered because of their intense ferocity. And so I don't usually see them as, I'm going to spring out of the trees and surprise and shoot you with an arrow.
Yeah, and if I want to differentiate the tactics here, which is what you're talking about, leave the ambush and the surprise and the guerrilla warfare for the goblins because that's what they're good at. Allow the orcs to be the big, ferocious, intimidating humanoids that they're supposed to be. Brutal in the way that they attack. They're going to be relentless. They're going to, if they knock somebody down, like if they end up knocking somebody to 0 or knocking them unconscious, they're going to go into rage mode and just beat the hell out of that fallen individual because they want to intimidate. So it isn't necessarily even about finishing them off and going, I'm just going to finish them off. It is, I'm going to brutally hit the body on the ground several times to show that I am relentless and I'm ferocious. And I'm going to intimidate the rest of the party or the rest of the people into running away because I'm not done yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to bash the skull in, or I'm going to just cleave off the head and throw it at you and then chase you down.
Yes, which again is a Lord of the Rings thing where they launch the heads of the defeated soldiers over the walls into the city to intimidate them, to bring fear upon them. Those are all things that I think oftentimes are lacking in many D&D games. Just the amount of fear that they enjoy trying to create because of the advantages that it gets them. A couple of just quick hit things here. Orcs generally have a high mobility, so they move fast. They're used to being on the chase, kind of the same way that we were talking about gnolls. The difference is that they're much less likely to run away. There's going to be morale failure. I don't want to come up with, I don't want to eliminate that from the orc group, but they're less likely to try and run away. They want to be able to capture that honor or capture that power that they get from defeating more powerful enemies. But if they're completely being swamped, they're going to back out. They're not, again, they're not stupid. So, high mobility, I think higher morale probably than most of the other creatures that we've talked about up to this point. They're again not stupid. They'll use the terrain to their benefit, but they aren't necessarily interested all the time in like you said, doing the ambush tactics and things like that. They don't do a whole lot of deception or misdirection or anything else like that. They want you to see them coming. They want you to hear them coming, and they want you to feel the fear that they're trying to evoke.
If they don't find you with piss dry going down your leg, they're going to be disappointed.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, I hope that this has been an enjoyable video for you here on Dungeon Brew. Make sure that you, again, like and subscribe, and leave us a comment down below. Tell us where you've used orcs in your campaign, what you do to distinguish them from other monsters, maybe some of your best memories of fighting against them as an adventurer, and we will see you all next time.
Dungeon Brew.